A tent city in the desert beside the ruins of Persepolis, October 1971. 50 heads of state under climate-controlled silk, waiters flown in from Paris, 50,000 songbirds imported for the occasion.
The birds all died within days, incidentally. Wrong climate. They had to be replaced.
The food is catered by a restaurant on the Rue Royale. The wine cellar is French. The chefs are French.
And the nearest Iranian village to that party has no electricity, no clean water, and no school.
Cost estimates run from $100 million upward to celebrate 2,500 years of Persian monarchy.
And 8 years later, that monarchy is gone, and the man who threw the party is dying of cancer in a borrowed house, refused entry by most of the countries whose leaders were at his table.
Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the last Shah of Iran. And what makes this story matter is that he wasn't overthrown by an army or a foreign power.
He was overthrown by his own population, essentially unarmed, in the space of about 14 months while he had one of the largest militaries on Earth.
So let's establish the foundation, because the dynasty itself is younger than most people assume.
It's 2 people long. His father, Reza Khan, was a soldier in the Persian Cossack Brigade, illiterate until adulthood. Enormous, intimidating man.
He takes power in a coup in 1921 and crowns himself Shah in 1925, ending the previous dynasty.
And he modernizes hard and fast. Roads, railways, a national army, secular courts, a university. He bans the veil by force, which was hugely resented.
And then, in 1941, he gets too friendly with Germany, and Britain and the Soviet Union invade and depose him.
And put his 21-year-old son on the throne, because a young man they'd installed would be easier to manage.
Which is the wound at the center of the whole reign. He knew he was on that throne because foreigners put him there.
And everyone in Iran knew it too. That's the accusation he could never escape, and it shaped everything he did.
Then 1951 and Mossadegh.
Elected prime minister, enormously popular, and his platform is one thing: nationalize the oil.
Because at that point, the oil is run by the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, later BP, and the terms are extraordinary.
Britain was reportedly making more in tax revenue from Iranian oil than Iran was making in royalties from its own oil.
And Iranian workers in the oil fields lived in conditions that even British officials described as appalling.
So he nationalizes it, and Britain responds with a global embargo and a naval blockade of Iranian tankers.
And then Britain persuades Washington that Mossadegh is a communist risk, which he wasn't. He was a nationalist aristocrat.
The 1953 coup, British intelligence and the CIA, working through paid crowds, bribed officers, and planted newspaper stories.
And the first attempt fails. The Shah panics and flies to Baghdad and then Rome.
There's a story that he was in a hotel restaurant reading about the second attempt succeeding in a newspaper.
So he returns to his own throne on the back of a foreign operation, having already run once.
And that never washes off. For the next 26 years, every opposition movement in Iran has one unanswerable line: this man is not ours.
And his response to that insecurity is Savak, founded in 1957.
The secret police, organized with American and Israeli assistance, and it becomes genuinely feared at a scale that saturates the society.
Informants in universities, offices, mosques, army units. Torture is systematic and well documented by outside organizations.
And here's the strategic effect that matters most. It destroys the moderate, secular, liberal opposition first.
Because they're easy to find. They meet in offices, they publish, they have addresses and phone numbers in organizations.
And the one institution Savak cannot dismantle is the mosque. Thousands of them, in every village, with their own funding, their own hierarchy, and a legitimate reason for people to gather every single week.
So the state clears the field of every competitor to the religious opposition, and then acts surprised by who's left standing.
Now the reforms, because it's not all repression, and this is where it gets genuinely complicated.
The White Revolution from 1963, land redistribution from the big landlords, votes for women, literacy corps sending graduates to teach in villages.
profit sharing for industrial workers, nationalizing forests and water, some of it real, some of it cosmetic.
But the land reform is the interesting one because of who it angered and who it displaced.
It broke the landed aristocracy, who were the monarchy's natural allies, and it enraged the clergy, who administered large religious endowments in land.
And it didn't give most peasants enough land to live on, so plots too small to farm and families moving to the cities.
Into slums around Tehran, where they're poor, dislocated, and looking for a familiar institution, which is the mosque.
Every single reform pushed people toward the one power center he couldn't police.
And the 1963 protests against it are where Khomeini appears nationally, a cleric in Qom denouncing the Shah in explicit terms.
Arrested and then exiled in 1964, to Turkey, then Iraq, and eventually to a village outside Paris in 1978.
Which turns out to be the most useful thing that ever happened to him. In Paris, he has international phone lines and the world's press on his doorstep.
And his sermons go back to Iran on cassette tapes, copied and passed hand to hand through the bazaars, a distribution network with no headquarters to raid.
Then 1973, and the money arrives.
The oil embargo quadruples the price. Iranian revenue goes from a few billion a year to something above 20 billion almost overnight.
And you'd think that saves him. It's what finishes him.
Because he refuses to phase the spending. He announces Iran will reach the level of Germany or France within a generation.
And the money hits an economy that physically can't absorb it. The ports jam, ships waiting months to unload, demurrage charges running into the millions.
Cement can't get inland because there aren't enough trucks. The electricity grid can't carry the new factories, so there are blackouts in Tehran.
And inflation runs hot while rents in the capital go vertical. The people who feel that first are the urban middle class and the recent migrants.
Their expectations were raised faster than their conditions improved. That gap is where revolutions live.
And the visible corruption on top of it, contracts to the royal family and courtiers, foreign advisors on enormous salaries.
Tens of thousands of American technicians and military personnel in the country, with legal immunities that looked exactly like the old colonial arrangements.
And in 1975, he abolishes the last pretense of politics. Two managed parties become one party, the Rastahis.
And he says on television that anyone who doesn't want to join can take their passport and leave.
Which is the mistake in a sentence. He told everyone with a grievance that there was no legal channel for it.
So it all comes to a head in 1978, and the trigger is a newspaper article.
January. A government-planted piece in a state paper attacking Khomeini personally, questioning his origins and his morals.
Seminary students in Qom protest. Police fire, people die.
And then the mourning cycle starts, which is the mechanism that makes this revolution unstoppable.
Because Shia tradition marks a death at 40 days, so 40 days after Qom there's a memorial in Tabriz.
Which is fired on, which creates more dead, which creates a memorial 40 days after that in more cities.
It's a religious calendar functioning as a protest schedule that the state cannot ban because it's a funeral.
Then August and the Cinema Rex fire in Abadan. The doors were locked and around 400 people burned to death.
It was almost certainly set by Islamist militants. At the time, nearly everyone believed it was Savak.
Which shows you where trust had gone. The regime was blamed automatically for anything.
Then Black Friday, the 8th of September, in Yala Square in Tehran. Martial law had been declared that morning and most of the crowd hadn't heard.
Troops fire on the demonstration. The death toll is disputed. Dozens confirmed, rumored in the thousands.
And after Black Friday, negotiation is over. Nobody in the streets will accept a compromise with him.
Then the strikes, which are the actual weapon. The oil workers walk out in the autumn.
And that cuts the government's income to essentially nothing. Then banks, then the civil service, then the customs offices.
The state stops functioning while the army is still fully intact. You can't order a soldier to run a refinery.
And through all of this, the Shah is behaving strangely, passive, indecisive, alternating between concessions and crackdowns.
He's dying, and almost nobody knows. Diagnosed with lymphoma in 1974, treated in secret by French doctors for years.
hidden from his own government, from the Americans, and by some accounts from his wife for a long stretch.
So the crucial decision of the crisis, crush it or concede, is being made by a man on chemotherapy who is thinking about his son's inheritance.
And he says later that a sovereign cannot save his throne by spilling his countrymen's blood, which may be principle or may be exhaustion.
The Americans are no help either. Carter had toasted Iran as an island of stability at a New Year's dinner in Tehran a year earlier.
And Washington then split internally over whether to back a crackdown or a transition and sent contradictory messages for months.
On the 16th of January 1979, he leaves, officially a holiday. He takes a small box of Iranian soil with him.
There's film of him at the airport with tears on his face and crowds in the streets afterward dancing and tearing down statues.
Khomeini flies in from Paris on the 1st of February to a crowd estimated in the millions.
The army declares neutrality on the 11th, and it's over. A referendum in March makes it an Islamic republic.
And the exile is genuinely pitiful. Egypt, Morocco, the Bahamas, Mexico.
Then the United States admits him for medical treatment in October, and students storm the embassy in Tehran and take 52 hostages for 444 days.
So America pushes him out to Panama, and then Egypt takes him back in. And he dies in Cairo in July 1980.
50 years after Persepolis was planned as a monument to a dynasty lasting forever.
So the verdict. He wasn't a cartoon tyrant. He genuinely wanted a modern, industrial, literate Iran.
And he built a lot of it. Universities, hospitals, roads, a huge expansion in literacy, real gains for women in law and employment.
And he did all of it while making sure nobody could ever tell him it was going wrong. No free press, no opposition party, no parliament with teeth. A secret police that reported what he wanted to hear.
So he ran the country on a dashboard where every warning light had been disconnected.
You can modernize a country's economy and still be governing blind if you've made honesty a crime. This was History But Better Podcast, Episode 8.